Alright everyone, wanted to take you through all the parts in the forward part of the fan shaft assembly. So starting with the front, you have a washer. They call it the packing washer. And you have this piece of packing that you can see disintegrated when I took it apart. It fits inside this piece here. And then you have your first spring. You've got a bearing. Again, you buy that as a whole unit. You've got another washer, and inside here is felt washer, or a felt piece that I didn't want to take out because I don't want it to disintegrate on me right now, and a little metal keeper. You've got an O-ring that, if you look on this pulley, sits in that groove inside. So this is where your belt goes to your generator. And you have your outer spring, one of your friction discs. So you've got this piece, and then the friction piece is still stuck on there, but you can buy new ones like so. Then you got your fan blade, and on the other side you've got another friction piece. This is a spare because these are stuck in the fan right now, because I broke one of these trying to get this apart. And then you've got your keepers. So most of this just kind of fits one over the other. You keep building your way up. And then in order to take this apart, you got to pull back with some sort of compressor. I had really long, call them C-clamps, they're really for like woodworking, to do laminate boards. But I put two of those to pull the fan back, and then I don't have the fan shaft here by me, but I can show you guys again later if I remember. If I don't, I apologize. You put this in on over the end, and then these little keepers slide in and they fit under a groove on the head of the shaft, and then the spring, the tension in the spring, and these keepers sitting against the end are what keep everything in and together. So yeah, so I'm cleaning it up. I'll take it apart later. Some of these pieces to paint later, but just want to get it running right now. All right, now working our way back towards the governor. Really, this piece goes on this side. I think in here is a rubber O-ring. I think that's part of what is in there, that big rubber piece. And then on this shaft, I didn't remove them. Got a key that goes in there. And then this air pump, if you look, is eccentric on the shaft. So something to note on that. And then you've got the gasket. This piece goes on. And here is like a little spring system. I need to free that up probably. The gasket and your end piece that mounts to the governor housing. Inside here is a bearing. Again, comes as a kit. Then on that shaft, you've got this gear. This is a new old stock one I found. I got a complete new set of these. Matching set. They're supposed to be matching this gear on the end of this shaft and the gear in the housing. So I was lucky enough to find those. And then a snap ring on the end. So in order to take this apart, I had to use a press to press that off after you've gotten that key off. And then we were able to press this piece off because needed to get that bearing out. And again, couldn't get the inner race out. ran a weld around it, threw it in some water, and it cooled down. If you do want to use a puller, you have to have a 2-jaw. If you look there, there's a little groove. When the bearing sits in there, there's one on each side. And that's all you got to pull on that thing. So, yep. Oh, one thing I forgot to add. So this setup was on a 1948. If you look in the parts manuals, they switched to different components at one point in the later style. So depending on what year you have in the serial number, this may look a little bit different for you. But this is what mine looks like for a 1948. Alright, so looking inside the governor here today, I had somebody help me with this, so I apologize I couldn't show you this all apart. So I'll kind of talk through it. So you can see I have this upside down. This is the face where the fan shaft comes in. So the main shaft coming through here, this is where your magneto interfaces or slot keys fit in there. Inside here is a spring. Now, when I had to get this shaft out, for some reason I had to press it out. That bearing right there, it's the same bearing that is used 3 other places in the fan shaft assembly. There's one that's used there. There's another one that goes on this end. This would be the left side of the tractor. And then the other parts of it go in the cap. And there are 2 in the fan shaft assembly, the one in the front and the one way back there in the back. Same bearing. Got the gear here that interfaces with the gear to the fan assembly. You've got this arm. I don't have the spring on there. In fact, here's the spring. I need to put that on yet. That just bolts onto the back side of this. You can't see it the way I have it flipped over right now. So this piece floats against this bearing here. This entire bearing should slide on here, which does. Again, brand new bearing. You've got your governor weights that fly in and out. Note the snap ring right here, and there's another one right there. And you've got your gear here that interfaces with the gear on the camshaft. In order to get all this off, quite simply, start on this side, work your way down. You can take off your weights, and we were able to press this gear off, which got that bearing piece off at the same time. Then this slides off. Then I forgot, get your snap ring off at some point. Then get this snap ring off, and then you can press this bearing off. Then you can press that one out. Then vice versa, getting it back together. So hopefully soon here, get this all set up and attached as one assembly. Here's where, like I was saying, this, not sure which way this goes, this way or this way, based on that end, but yeah, we'll get it put back together. Alright folks, so before I get into the actual installation of the governor assembly on there and different aspects of getting that together, you can see different things that have been done. I got the upper water pipe on, going to the radiator. I went ahead and just mounted that stack, although right now I don't have the actual line hooked up to it. And you can see my makeshift gas line for now. I had a gas tank, poured gas in it, ended up having a hole in it somehow after I tested it. But anyways, so I got to fix that to make up a little gas tank. So before I talk about getting the governor assembly on here, if you read in the manual, there are 2 adjustments that you use in order to mesh the 2 gears going from the governor shaft to this fan shaft here. And they are the number of shims here and the number of shims here. And you want to get them, so I think the manual says there's like 5,000ths of backlash or play there. But really, if you get the shafts sitting nicely like it should, you'll be able to feel it. If there's too much bind there, or if they're too loose. And I can't really show you here, unfortunately, since I have it on, but you can also see that the gears are meshed very well in terms of where the surfaces angle up at 90 degrees where they meet. You'll feel a nice smooth transition from one gear to the other. So yeah, I would do that before you put it on here, simply because it would be hard to feel when that gear is meshed. This is also where you set the timing of everything. I hope I talked about during the install, there's the gear on the crankshaft, and then on the inside of the tooth, so on this side, there's a little punch mark on one of the teeth. It just so happens to be at the bottom of the throw on the crank. Should be in line with that. And then it matches that V mark on the gear for the camshaft. So then when you have your motor at top dead center, which I'll be honest with you, was throwing me off even watching the valves when I had the cover off. Even watching the valves, exhaust open, intake open, it was a little confusing for me. So it was good to have this cover off to verify that I was at top dead center. And on the flywheel, you've got your markings, left hand exhaust open and left hand impulse. Now, one thing not to get confused on is when it's talking about the marking on the flywheel for timing, it's not this, to be clear. If you look real hard, there's a punch mark there, and there's actually, I don't know if you can see it, there's one right there on the other side. Now, something that you guys could help me with, or let me know what you think, but I have always seen it where, and maybe I think the manual says it's supposed to be the older bees, where when this mark is here and lined up with this indentation mark, that it should be at top dead center, and the slot in the governor on the other side should be horizontal. That's the way I was reading it in the manual, but in the manual, it was telling me that this mark should be in line with the bottom, because there is supposed to be a mark on the flywheel. I don't know if that's it or if that's just a dent. But anyway, sorry, dropped the camera. Anyways, that just did not work for me. I don't know why the timing was not right for me. So maybe you guys can tell me if I was misinterpreting the manual, but I got the timing mark when I had it set here was when I was at top dead center, which made sense. And the slot on the governor for the magneto was horizontal. You can see I got the magneto installed. So you install that after you get that horizontal, and then you got to get your timing right on the magneto, such that once this dot goes past that point, it should fire. Hence, left-hand impulse hits that mark, it should fire. So get the magneto placement where it needs to be. You can see I got the couple of linkages set up for the carburetor and the throttle. All right, so getting the governor on here, I mentioned it, and I guess I was jumping ahead of myself. With the engine at top dead center, you have to set the governor on here with the gear in here rotated such that when you land it, that slot is horizontal. So if it's not horizontal, lift this governor assembly off a little bit, turn the gear on this side or turn it from that side. It was nice to have a second set of hands to do it, but just make sure that all your timing marks line up. Mark with the indent on the 5th and 6th gear cover, landed horizontal. Then of course it's good, to pull the, don't have your spark plugs in, run it a couple times, spin it over, make sure everything seems to be right. And then your fan shaft up here, I would undo this, kind of set it in here, and then get this bracket installed. I tried to install with that bracket as is, and you just couldn't really do it. Also, I had this water pipe on first because that was just something I could do while I was waiting on other things to get done. I don't know that I really suggest that. It was really kind of difficult getting this in here, getting it over that gear that's sticking up in here, and getting that end in there at the same time. I think when I go and do this at the very end, I'm going to put this water pipe on last. I think it'll just go a lot smoother. Yeah, I think that's all I got for now. Oh, guess I should mention, don't forget you got a bolt on each side here. I got to tighten them down yet. In order to tighten that down to tighten this up, otherwise it's a little loose. So yeah, getting ready to run here, and hopefully get her purring like a kitten, or popping like a 2-cylinder, I guess would be the right term for this. So yeah, let me know what you guys all think. Hope to hear from you.